Why competence alone will never give you authority. Picture this. You're the most skilled person in the room. You work hard, you know your craft inside out. By all logic, you should be the one in charge, right? So why do you see others, sometimes less capable, calling the shots? It's a frustrating paradox. Competence does not automatically translate to authority. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The famed author of The Prince observed that people are often satisfied with appearances as though they were realities, and thus more influenced by the things that seem than by those that are. In other words, looking powerful can matter more than being knowledgeable. Throughout history and into the modern day, leaders from Sun Tzu to Robert Greene have echoed this truth. They've taught us that authority is not just earned by what you do, but by what others perceive you can do. So, why will competence alone never give you authority? In this video, we'll explore the hidden dynamics of power, from ancient wisdom to modern research. We'll see why the loudest voice often drowns out the smartest one, and how factors like visibility, influence, alliances, perception, and strategic positioning determine who rises to the top. Along the way, we'll reference thinkers like Machiavelli, Sun Tzu, and Robert Greene, and use real examples to show how being the best is not enough without playing the game. By the end, you'll understand that gaining authority isn't just about being competent. It's about being seen as a leader and leveraging strategy to shape that perception. Let's dive in. Perception versus reality. The power of appearance. Is it fair? Perhaps not. But authority is often a perception game. Humans are wired to judge by what we see. As Machiavelli put it, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. We assume the confident executive at the head of the table must be the most capable, sometimes even when the real expertise lies with someone quieter in the corner. Sun Tzu, the ancient Chinese strategist, would nod in agreement. All warfare is based on deception, he wrote. In battle, appearing strong when you are weak, or vice versa, can decide victory. In leadership, the same principle applies. Appearing authoritative can be more crucial than actual technical skill. A person may not have all the answers, but if they project certainty and strength, others naturally grant them authority. Consider an everyday scenario. Have you ever had a less qualified coworker who nevertheless ran the show because they were good at showing up? Perhaps they weren't the best at the job, but they spoke confidently, showcased their work to higher-ups, and crafted an image of leadership. Meanwhile, the competent workhorse who keeps their head down remains unnoticed. The outcome? The spotlight gravitates to the one who commands perception, not necessarily the one with superior talent. Machiavelli advised rulers to cultivate image and even exercise a bit of cunning. He famously argued that sometimes a leader must learn how not to be good when necessary, a provocative way to say that strict virtue or pure merit can be a handicap in power struggles. It's a harsh truth. Sticking purely to competence and honesty without attending to optics and strategy might leave you overlooked in the hierarchy. Meanwhile, those willing to manage impressions, even through deception or showmanship, often leapfrog ahead. To put it simply, authority is awarded, not just earned. It's awarded by people's perceptions, and perception is shaped by appearances, storytelling, and symbolism. A leader wears the mantle of authority by looking the part. Uniforms, titles, confident body language, they all create an aura. If you ignore these as shallow concerns, you risk ceding power to those who embrace them. Confidence and charisma, trumping competence. Let's address the big factor in the room, confidence. If you've ever wondered why the most confident person often gets picked as leader over the most competent, you're onto something. Research backs this up. One widely cited Harvard Business Review article noted that nearly 45% of the time, people choose their leaders based on charisma, personality, and confidence, not on actual competence. Think about that. In almost half of cases, how a person presents outweighs what they actually can do. Surprising? Perhaps. Concerning? Definitely. Psychologically, we're prone to what's known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias where people with limited knowledge dramatically overestimate their competence, while genuine experts tend to underestimate theirs. The result is a confidence gap. The less capable often shout from the rooftops, while the truly skilled stay modest, aware of what they don't know. We end up following the loudest voice, not realizing that volume doesn't equal ability. Why does this happen? Our brains use shortcuts when sizing people up, especially in leadership. We equate certain signals with competence, even if it's a mirage. For example, confidence, often taken as a sign of competence. If they sound sure, they must know what they're doing, right? Decisiveness suggests clarity and capability, even if it's just quick boldness. Certainty feels reassuring. We prefer someone who says absolutely over someone who says it depends. These mental shortcuts mean that a confidently wrong person can seem more leader-like than a hesitant expert. We feel safer with the bold, simple answer, even when reality is complex. As one commentator put it bluntly, the great majority of mankind are satisfied with appearances, often more influenced by the things that seem than by those that are. In plain terms, we crave certainty, even if it's false, more than we crave nuanced truth. A striking example comes from the startup world. Imagine two entrepreneurs pitching to investors. Founder Emma has 15 years of industry experience. She calmly explains the market challenges, offers realistic growth projections, and openly notes potential obstacles. Founder Tyler, on the other hand, has zero experience, but he oozes confidence. Tyler paints a grand vision in bold strokes, dismisses any doubts, and promises explosive success in record time. Who gets the backing? In one real-world case, Tyler secured funding far more easily. He raised $5 million in his first round, while Emma struggled to raise $1 million despite her superior plan. Investors were swayed by Tyler's charisma and certainty. For a while, everyone hailed him as the genius, until his flashy startup crashed and burned. Emma's business, quietly and competently, later thrived. But initially, perception beat competence. This story is all too common. We see it in offices, politics, even schools. Those who speak up and radiate confidence often get fast-tracked, while diligent experts are expected to prove themselves over and over. Charisma acts like a magnet for authority. Psychologist Thomas Chamorro-Premuzic highlighted this issue by pointedly asking, why do so many incompetent men become leaders? The answer isn't that men are less competent. It's that we frequently mistake confidence for competence. People who confidently assert themselves tend to be viewed as natural leaders, even when their actual ability is average or worse. We can look at politics and wonder how certain bombastic figures gain followings. Often, they project absolute certainty and simple solutions, appealing to our emotions and desire for clarity. As one analysis noted, in times of uncertainty, the crowd favors the person proclaiming, "I alone can fix this. It's simple," over the expert who says, "This issue is complicated and there's no easy fix." We gravitate to the illusion of competence because it's comforting. Unfortunately, this means genuinely competent voices, who tend to acknowledge complexity and limits, get sidelined as weak or unsure. It's a classic case of confidence trumping actual skill in the authority game, alliances, influence, and the social game of power. Authority is not a solo sport. Being technically good at something might make you individually valuable, but leadership and power are granted by people through social dynamics. This is where influence, relationships, and alliances come into play. To climb higher, it's often who is in your corner that matters as much as what you can do. Machiavelli advised rulers that the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. In context, he meant smart leaders pick strong advisors, But intriguingly, he also observed that weak leaders do the opposite. They surround themselves with even weaker subordinates to avoid being challenged. What does this tell us? Power holders are very deliberate about alliances. Good or bad, they know authority comes from backing. If you lack allies or a supportive network, sheer competence won't lift you up. You'll be seen as an island, not a leader. Think of a competent employee with no political savvy. They might get results on their own but have no coalition to champion them. Now think of a moderately skilled employee who has built strong relationships across departments and always has colleagues singing their praises. When a management position opens, who is more likely to be promoted? The one people want to follow, which often correlates with that person having invested in connections and goodwill. Leadership guru John C. Maxwell famously said, "Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less." Authority at its core is the ability to influence others. You can be a genius, but if you can't persuade others, if you haven't earned their trust or respect, you won't be granted authority over them. True authority is voluntarily given by followers. They give it because they feel a connection, see that you understand them, or believe you can achieve a shared goal. This is why socially adept individuals often rise faster. They excel in the art of influence. They network, they communicate a compelling vision, they maybe even flatter and finesse when needed. It's strategic positioning within a human web of power. History and modern business alike provide striking examples. Julius Caesar didn't become Rome's dictator just by being a great general. He built alliances, like the First Triumvirate, and curried favor with the people. On the flip side, someone like Cicero, brilliant and competent, struggled to gain lasting power because he lacked an army or strong alliances to back him, and his enemies united against him. In the corporate world, consider how Steve Jobs partnered with technical whiz Steve Wozniak. Wozniak was the engineering mastermind behind Apple's early computers, but it was Jobs' influence, marketing savvy, and big-picture vision that built Apple into a giant. As one leadership expert put it, Jobs had the vision, Woz had the goods. It's the partnership of a vision of the future and the talent to get it done that makes an organization great. Jobs knew how to inspire people and forge industry alliances. Wozniak preferred to tinker in the background. Both were geniuses in their lane, but without Jobs' social leadership, Wozniak's technical competence alone wouldn't have created Apple's authority in the tech world. So if you seek authority, ask yourself, are you cultivating allies and advocates? Do people know what you're good at, and do they feel invested in your success? Influence often grows through reciprocity and support, helping others so they support you in turn. You can't be a lone virtuoso expecting to be handed the reins. Influence is relational. Alliances can also protect you on the climb. Without them, even a competent individual can be isolated or sabotaged by rivals. But with a strong network, you gain mentors, protégés, patrons, and friends who open doors for you. In many organizations, the key to advancement isn't just performance, it's having a higher-up who vouches for you. And to earn that, you must strategically build those relationships. It's not office politics in a dirty sense, it's the reality of any human group. Strategic positioning, visibility, and reputation. Now let's talk about visibility, being seen and recognized. There's a saying, it's not the most competent people who get promoted, it's the most visible. This might sting, but it's often true. If your talents are hidden, you might as well be invisible when authority is being handed out. Strategic positioning means you ensure your value is known and your image is managed. In practical terms, this involves some self-promotion and branding, which many competent folks shy away from. You might think, my work should speak for itself. It would be nice if the world worked that way, but usually it doesn't. As a CBS Business column warned, don't assume hard work is enough. In today's competitive work world, being competent is not sufficient to earn you accolades. Getting ahead requires strategic thinking, subtle self-promotion, and teamwork. Simply grinding away in the background often nets you more work, not recognition. The person who strategically volunteers for high-visibility projects, who speaks up about their accomplishments with tact, and who aligns their efforts with the company's big goals, that person will be noticed and seen as leadership material. Consider two employees, Alice and Bob. Alice is extremely capable. She solves tough problems and works long hours, but quietly. Bob is moderately capable, but he's proactive in showcasing progress, sending updates to his boss, and making presentations to the team. Bob also networks outside his team, so lots of people know him. When a higher role comes up, upper management immediately thinks of Bob. They've heard his name and seen his enthusiasm. Alice, despite superior performance, might be passed over simply because decision-makers hardly know what she's been up to. Visibility is vital. Reputation is another facet of positioning. Great competence can actually form the basis of a strong reputation if you let people know about it. As Robert Greene emphasizes in his Laws of Power, so much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Your reputation is the story that precedes you. It's how authority often travels. People believe you're capable or powerful because they've heard good things or seen symbols of your success. Smart strategists cultivate a reputation deliberately. They highlight key victories, associate with high-status projects or mentors because that association boosts their own status, and even craft an aura. Sometimes, something as simple as the way you dress or the confidence of your speaking style feeds your reputation as a leader. If this sounds like theatrics, well, leadership has a performative element. Robert Greene gives a fascinating historical example. Henry I, Duke of Guise in 16th century France. He was not the king, not even of royal blood, yet he wielded enormous influence. How? By acting like a king. Guise dressed, spoke, and carried himself with such authority that he became a rallying figure, nearly as powerful as the King of France. He projected an image of importance, and people treated him accordingly. Per Greene's advice, act like a king to be treated like one. This isn't about pretending to have skills you lack, it's about projecting confidence and dignity such that others assume you're worthy of respect. Guise's competence in statecraft mattered, but it was his strategic showmanship that magnified his authority. Henry I, Duke of Guise, exemplified the power of strategic positioning. He cultivated a regal persona and strong public reputation, allowing him to influence French politics heavily in the late 1500s. The lesson? People will often take you at your own estimation. If you undervalue yourself, staying hidden in the shadows, don't be surprised if the world also underrates you. Conversely, if you confidently step into the spotlight and signal, "I am a leader," many will accept that signal at face value. Of course, strategic visibility must be balanced. One of Greene's other laws is never outshine the master. Over-eagerness can backfire if you make your superiors feel overshadowed or threatened. The key is to promote yourself tactfully and align your wins with your boss's or team's goals so it feels like a collective success. You want a positive reputation without provoking envy. It's a fine line to walk. Essentially, political savvy. The politically savvy know when to showcase themselves and when to step back so as not to ruffle feathers. If done right, though, raising your profile is essential. Remember, authority is conferred. People in power look for those who appear ready for leadership. They're not omniscient. They rely on the signals you send. So send signals of confidence, show results, and let them be known, and manage your narrative. Build a reputation that precedes you, so opportunities come knocking. Examples: competence without authority, authority without competence. Sometimes the best way to drive this point home is through concrete examples, some almost cautionary tales, of competence alone falling short, and conversely, of savvy trumping skill. We've already seen a few, but let's quickly revisit and add more. Nikola Tesla versus Thomas Edison. Tesla was a brilliant inventor, arguably more technically competent than Edison. Yet in their infamous war of currents, it was Edison, with far inferior electrical technology, who held the authority early on. Why? Edison was a master of influence and PR. When he felt threatened by Tesla's superior alternating current, AC system, Edison launched a ruthless publicity campaign to sway public perception. He staged demonstrations proving AC's dangers, even backing the invention of the electric chair to brand AC as lethal. Edison controlled the narrative and had powerful business alliances. Tesla, despite being right on the science, struggled for quite some time to gain adoption for AC because Edison's authority and media savvy set the tone. Eventually, Tesla's AC prevailed on its technical merits, but only after Edison's influence was countered by Tesla's alliance with Westinghouse. The takeaway: being right was not enough. Tesla needed influence and partnership to overcome Edison's authoritative hold on public perception. Modern corporate misleadership. We've all seen cases of a manager or leader who clearly isn't the most competent person on the team. Perhaps they knew the right people or knew how to play the game internally. Often, these individuals are skilled at office politics. They build alliances, align themselves with upper management, and take credit strategically. Meanwhile, more competent employees might train these very bosses behind the scenes. It's practically a trope. The technical expert reports to a boss who can barely do the job. Why does this happen? Organizations sometimes reward perception and connections over merit. A confident, well-connected individual can rise by making themselves indispensable to higher-ups or by simply fitting the image of a leader. They might be likable, charismatic, or from a privileged background that gives them a head start. The result is a mismatch: formal authority in one person, real competence in another. It's not sustainable forever. Incompetent leaders are often eventually exposed, but it can persist shockingly long if the facade is maintained. Machiavelli actually warned about this pattern. Insecure leaders, he noted, often avoid hiring very competent subordinates because they feel competence threatened. They prefer loyalists to challengers. This creates entire hierarchies where authority figures are less competent than the people below, yet no one with talent is allowed to climb and unseat them. A scary scenario, and a recipe for organizational failure. But it underscores that authority is not automatically earned by competence. Sometimes it's jealously guarded from the competent. The charismatic visionary and the team. Consider visionary leaders like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. Are they the top engineers or coders in their companies? Not at all. Their contribution is vision, risk-taking, and the ability to galvanize both investors and employees around that vision. They have, or had in Jobs' case, an uncanny authority over people, a cult of personality even, that far exceeds what any engineering degree could confer. This isn't to say they aren't smart or competent in many ways, they are. But their authority didn't come from being the most technically skilled. It came from their influence, their big, audacious goals that others wanted to follow, and their deliberate crafting of an image. Think of Jobs' famous black turtleneck uniform and product launch showmanship. That was personal branding, giving him almost messianic authority in tech. Meanwhile, their companies employ thousands of extremely competent professionals who execute the vision without ever stepping into the limelight. Those workers' competence is crucial, but the authority remains with the figure who orchestrates and symbolizes the mission. What these examples teach is that competence is often necessary, but not sufficient. You usually do need some competence to ultimately succeed in authority. Completely inept leaders tend to fail in the long run, as Tyler, the overconfident founder, did. However, competence by itself won't put you in power. It must be married with strategy, whether that's controlling the narrative, leveraging relationships, or boldly embodying a vision that others rally around. So, why will competence alone never give you authority? Because authority is a social contract. a performance, and a strategic prize, not an automatic reward for a job well done. You can be the smartest person in the room and still be ignored if you don't also master visibility, influence, and perception. People don't follow just the person who is right. They follow the person who connects, who convinces them to believe, and who looks like a leader. This isn't a call to abandon competence. On the contrary, competence is your foundation. Without it, any authority you gain will be hollow and short-lived. But the message is, competence must be paired with strategic action. You have to claim authority. It won't simply be handed to you for your hard work. In Machiavellian terms, you must be both the lion and the fox, strong and shrewd. In Sun Tzu's terms, you must win the battle of minds before the battle of skills, shaping perceptions like a general deploying deception. In Robert Greene's terms, you must court attention and guard your reputation, moving pieces on the chessboard of power with foresight. To gain real authority, focus on a few key things. Cultivate your influence. Work on communication and emotional intelligence. Leadership is largely about inspiring and persuading others. Remember Maxwell, leadership is influence. Build alliances. Don't just hone your technical skills, hone your network. Seek mentors, collaborate generously, and develop supporters who will speak up on your behalf. Manage perceptions. Be mindful of your personal brand. Ensure your good work is visible. Speak up about achievements. Take on leadership roles in small ways to signal your capacity and project confidence, even if it feels a bit uncomfortable. Adapt strategically. Study the power dynamics around you. Who holds sway and why? Align with successful influencers and learn the unwritten rules. Office politics isn't a dirty word, it's simply understanding the human factor. Use it ethically to make sure your competence counts. Stay authentic, within reason. This is important. Managing image doesn't mean being fake or lying about your abilities. It means presenting your best self and not hiding your light under a bushel. Authenticity builds trust, but authenticity doesn't mean naivete. You can be genuine and savvy at the same time. In the end, competence is your ticket to the game, but strategy and social skills are how you win it. Authority has to be seized in the arena of human interaction. It's about stepping out from the crowd and saying, "I can lead," and backing it up by getting others to believe it too. Think of the most effective leaders. They surround themselves with capable people, they communicate a vision, they make themselves seen and heard, and they play the power game with intent. You can do the same. The next time you wonder why you haven't been given the authority you deserve, consider flipping the script. How can you position yourself to take the authority you deserve? After all, history smiles on those who not only excel at their craft, but also excel at championing their excellence. In a world of competition, remember that being good is not enough. You also have to be seen as good and make others feel your impact. Marry your competence with tactical influence. That's the strategic doctrine of true authority. Dramatic tone. And if you do that, you won't just be the best in the room, you'll be the leader of the room.